The Duke is now in Kaduna, where he paid a visit to wounded Nigerian soldiers currently receiving treatment at the 44 Nigerian Army Reference Hospital. During his discussion with Governor Uba Sani, he acknowledged reports from the Chief of Defense Staff and indicating that the Invictus Games brought joy to injured troops from Nigeria. He mentioned that participating in the Games had a positive impact on the morale of wounded soldiers, emphasizing the role of sports in their rehabilitation as well as the support of their families.
He once again for coming to encourage our veterans, our soldiers wounded and in action, and families of our soldiers killed in action. We are grateful for your work toward creating a hub dedicated to the welfare of personnel of our armed forces. Your visit is evidence of your commitment to inspiring recovery, supporting rehabilitation, and broadening respect of our brave troops.
I feel your words of encouragement and of support. Thank you, and thank you for everything that you do, your service to this community. The focus of this trip up here is obviously the wounded, injured and sick men and women who serve the Nigerian forces to keep people safe. And having founded the Invictus Games over 10 years ago, Nigeria was the first African nation to join last year in Germany with 10 fantastic human beings. And as we had a conversation with the Chief of the Defense Staff a few hours earlier, he acknowledged the smiles on their faces and the fact that that opportunity, that moment, being part of the Invictus community, put a smile back on their face.
It is a moral booster, especially to our troops. It has shown that despite the fact that they have fought for their country and they have lost some aspects of their body or they sustain injury, does not mean they are written off. It shows that they are well catered for, well taken care of, and there is a concern, about their well-being. For somebody at that level to come and check about their well-being, I think it's a big thing.
Senior reporter Lupe Asom is covering the story for us in Kaduna. He joins me now for some updates. Prince Harry did apologize that the Duchess couldn't make the trip to Kaduna as he has several meetings in Abuja. Walk us through the highlights of his visit to your city.
Well, good evening, Nifemi. Of course, the visit of the Duke of Duchess to Kaduna State was actually a very exciting moment for everybody. He was welcomed by the Zazzau cultural troops who thrilled him to some of the traditional dance of the Zazzau people. And first of all, he was taken on tour to a gallery within the Kaduna State Government House where he saw past British and even indigenous leaders of Kaduna State. And he had some talking time with the governor of Kaduna State, and he said the aim of his visit was to lift the spirit of our troops who were wounded across the various theaters of operations. Of course, concerns have been raised about the security situation in the country. It is public knowledge that the Nigerian Army troops are in 33 out of the 36 states in the country carrying out internal policing operations, military operations to ensure the safety of Nigerians. And a lot of them have lost limbs, they have lost arms, they have lost their eyes, and they are currently receiving medication at the 44 Nigerian Army Reference Hospital. So when the Prince visited, he said the aim of his visit was to lift their spirit and to show that they are not left alone, that their lives are not over, because they were actually in the course of protecting the territorial integrity of the nation. And he emphasized the importance of sports to rehabilitate these people. Of course, 10 of them last year attended the Invictus Game. And he also said reports he got from the Minister of Defense and even the Chief of Defense Staff indicated clearly that the Invictus Games played a critical role in bringing back smiles to their faces. So he then further went to the 44 hospital where he saw them, but of course the media were not permitted to go in. So that's the situation in Kaduna.
What specific feedback are you getting from stakeholders within the military rank about the importance of this visit?
They are very, very appreciative of his visit. According to them, they said his visit has come to boost their morale. And of course, you could imagine how many troops are currently receiving medications in that hospital. A lot of them sustained injuries, improvised explosive devices. Some of them were shot. They are just there. Of course, the Nigerian defense system have always visited them. The chief of defense staff has always visited them.
Indeed.
But having the Prince, the Duke of Duchess visit them, according to them, has come as a huge morale booster. They are very, very appreciative of the Prince, and they say it will go a long way to even encourage some of the troops who are currently in the front lines of operations.
Is he still in Kaduna, the Duke of Sussex?
As soon as he was done with his visit, as soon as he was done with visiting the troops, he headed immediately for the Nigerian Air Force Base, where he would be going back to Abuja. So at the moment, we expect that he should be back in Abuja at the moment, where he will be proceeding with some of the other aspects of his unofficial visit to Nigeria.
Lope Assam, thank you for the updates there from Kaduna. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan landed this morning at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The first engagement for today was at the Lightway Academy, Abuja, to open an event on mental health for students there. They were greeted by a drum and dance group from the Igbo ethnic group, and we also saw them tour the Lightway Academy, where they were welcomed by the pupils. They were also at the defense headquarters, where military officials and other dignitaries received the royals. Prince Harry later inspected a guard of honor. Joining me now live from our Abuja studios, defense correspondent Sifon Esen. Sifon, it's been a busy day covering the royal couple's visit. Talk to us about what happened at the defense headquarters during the visit.
A really busy day covering the arrival of the royals to the defense headquarters, where first and foremost a guard of honor, saluted them. And indeed the Duke of Sussex. And after the saluting dies, he had an engagement with one of the beneficiaries of the Invictus Games, talking about peacemaker Ozigbalum, who lost his limbs and won laurels at the last international competition of the Invictus Games. And afterwards, he went in to the office of the Chief of Defense Staff and held a private meeting with the Chief of Defense Staff. The details were not given, but we understand that it's to firm up the agreement, the engagement to establish an Invictus Games Center in Abuja. Invictus Game is basically a recovery game program for wounded service personnel, and that's just to give them a renewed hope, you could call it. That in spite of their losing parts of their bodies to country in the service of country, they still have something to live for.
The royal couple are in the country for 3 days, and their visit is expected to take them to 3 cities across Nigeria. What more do you know about their itinerary?
Well, they're going to be having a busy day tomorrow, Saturday. I understand Prince Harry should be on his way back to Abuja after, visiting the governor of Kaduna State. The day eventually or effectively starts several hours before noon, where they will be having several engagements, including attending the training session for, organized by Nigeria Unconquered. The group works with the Invictus Group, to promote sports recovery for wounded soldiers, and that will happen tomorrow. Then that will pave way to several other events. That will also pave the way for several other engagements, including a dinner to be hosted by the Chief of Defense Staff again. And then on Sunday, it's going to be a lot of activities again for the royal couple in Abuja.
Sefone, thank you for the update there. We're back with more on the royal couple visit to Nigeria right after this break. Stay with us, everyone.
Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear
Welcome back, everyone. We understand that the Duke and Duchess's visit to Nigeria is to strengthen the injured soldiers and also bring some inspiration and hope to them, particularly when you consider Nigeria's presence in the Invictus Games last year. Exploring the potential of hosting the event in the future is also part of the talks. The Invictus Games was created by Prince Harry as an international multi-sport event first held in 2014 for wounded, injured and sick servicemen and women, both serving and veterans. Nigeria participated in the 2023 edition of the Invictus Games held in Germany, winning some gold and silver medals. The Games is of course, part of a critical recovery pathway for international wounded, injured and sick servicemen and women. It also gave soldiers awareness and recognition in society to support their path in rehabilitation. I'm joined now by former captain of the U.S. Army, Bish Johnson, for more on this development. Thank you for joining us on the program this evening. How much of a moral booster is this visit, particularly for men and women of the Nigerian Army? Mr. Johnson, I'm asking how much a moral booster you think this visit is for servicemen and women.
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. It's huge.
Well, you probably will have to turn down the volume of your TV set where you are so that we can do without the feedback audio we're hearing from here. Can you do that for us quickly?
It's a very huge morale boost because you see, military service is a very, very, very difficult service. Most of the time, you are overworking yourself. It's something that you put in so many hours, have little sleep. Most times, you are away from your family. It's even more difficult when the service member is injured. And so for them to have this visit from Prince Harry, who himself also wore the uniform, is a veteran, is going to be a very, very morale boost for our service members. They will know that they are not alone in whatever situation they are going through right now, that at least somebody is out there thinking about them and thinking about what they can do for them and their family to assist them in the condition that they are facing right now. The military service is not a joke. If you have not worn the uniform, you've not been there, you've not been away from your family most of the times, you will not understand the difficulty of serving in the armed forces. So this particular visit, I commend the prince and his wife for this visit. And I have to tell you that we recognize the importance of this visit to our wounded warriors. It's not only going to be a morale boost for them, but they will be very much energized, knowing that there are people outside there within their immediate environment that are thinking about them. And I commend the Chief of Defense Staff for that initiative of inviting the Prince and his wife to come and spend time with these wounded warriors.
What do you consider the standard practice when an officer is wounded, in the course of the job?
Well, if they are wounded, is the first and foremost is the responsibility of the individual service to give them the best medical care. In our own instance, in the U.S., most of the wounded warriors are usually transported to Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Some of them are also treated in our various medical facilities across the globe, whether it's in Germany or Japan, wherever they closest, but give them the best of care to make sure that they recover from their injuries. And even while they are being treated, you have to make sure that their families are being supported and that their families are very close to them. You have to give them that sense of belonging, that they are not forgotten. Just because they are wounded and they're out of the battlefield does not mean that they are forgotten. So being out of sight cannot be out of memory. And so that is the standard practice, to make sure that they do not in any way regret their service, and that their families in any way do not regret the service of their loved ones.
A lot have now been said about the Invictus Games, which Nigeria participated for the first time last year. About 10 Nigerian soldiers participated, winning gold and some other medals. But it's just one game, and there's just a limited number of wounded soldiers who can participate. What do you make of the current quality of warfare? Don't let us talk about the generality of servicemen and women, but specifically those who have been wounded in the course of their service. We may have lost connection with Bishop Johnson. We'll try to reconnect with him and continue that conversation. But the big question right now is what happens after this visit. Mr. Johnson, I was asking about your own analysis of the quality of warfare available for wounded soldiers in Nigeria.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know exactly what kind of care that is being given to them. Is one area that I personally have not paid attention to, which this visit has drawn my attention to, and which I want to get involved to see what kind of care that they are receiving, having seen and experienced the kind of care that are given to U.S. Wounded warriors. But by and large, I don't see Nigeria doing terribly bad in this aspect. It may not be as good as what wounded American warriors receive, but I don't expect it to be that bad. I expect it to be at least something that would be commensurate to the level of welfare that we give to people in this country. So we expect that it will be something that will be meaningful, and it won't be that terrible. It won't be that bad.
So in the U.S. Army that you are more accustomed with, what happens when a soldier loses a limb, a leg? Does that automatically evict them from the service, or they have other roles that they can play?
It depends on the type of injury. If they lose a leg or an arm, obviously they will not be able to be involved in active service. Basically, what is going to happen is that they will be removed from service and they will be transferred to Department of Veterans Affairs that will continue to care for them. We have a ministry level Veterans Affairs. Is a department. It's just like a State Department or Department of Defense. This one is for those who have left the services. So if they have such injuries that they can no longer continue services, they will be transferred to Department of Veterans Affairs, where they will continue to receive the same care, or if not more, as what they were receiving while they were still in active service. There won't be any difference between the kind of care they receive while in the Department of Veterans Affairs from what they were receiving if they were still to be active. So it depends on the level of injury. If it's injury that you can't continue in your service, you will have to be transferred to the Department of Veterans Affairs.
So a lot of reactions have trailed, the news from Nigerian Army that the officers involved in the aero bombing in Kaduna, I think last year, have been court-martialed. There's a thin line between, the need to discipline errors of that kind, especially when you consider the magnitude that we recorded in a number of deaths. But how do you draw the line between also not discouraging members of the troop?
Yes, I think in my previous interview with respect to this particular subject matter, I was very, very clear that, yes, there will be, people will be disciplined, but at the same time, the services will be very cognizant of the fact that they cannot subject service members to a situation where they will be very reluctant to do their job for fear of, making mistakes and being punished. It depends on the outcome of the investigation. If what happened was a gross negligence on the part of the service members that were responsible for that incident, I think they must have to be punished. And the reason why they have to be punished is to make sure there is a deterrence to others who may bypass, standard operating procedures. Because everything in the armed forces, even on how you tie your shoes, how you wear your uniforms, everything has a manual, a standard operating procedure that you have to follow to be able to do all those things, including how you do your job. There's always some kind of guideline or document that you will follow to be able to execute your job, to make sure that you do it efficiently and effectively. And so if there's a gross negligence on the part of the service members, I don't think that I believe that the military will have no other option to make sure that those who were that much very negligent in their duty as to have caused that level of civilian death must be punished. So I think whatever punishment is being meted at now is as a result of the outcome of the investigation that had been carried out within the service.
Bash Johnson used to be captain with the U.S. Army. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the show this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.